Welcome back to another trade video. In this series, we break down the top 12 most recently traded players. Let's go right into it. First up, we have T. Higgins. Now, the Cincinnati offense, it has been rolling over the last 2 weeks following their bye week, presumably as this offense has gotten healthy. In Higgins' first 5 games, he only had a total of 14 receptions, while this last 2 weeks, he has totaled 13 on 15 targets. I think the last 2 videos I have noted to buy Higgins, and obviously this is still true. He is returning to his normal snap share as he hit 83% in week 9. The buy window closed, and you're going to need to pay up to get him on your team. Joe Burrow is rolling, and this offense should look to continue their success for the rest of this season. Now, if you are enjoying the video, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more content. Kicking into another wide receiver here, the second most traded player, Davante Adams. Now, in last week's video, I mentioned to snag up Adams before this team would just be rejuvenated playing without Josh McDaniels. Well, he only had 4 receptions for 34 yards, so there still is a buy window here. He did have 7 targets, so the volume is still there with Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. Adams, individually, he leads the league in red zone targets at 16, but he only has 9 total receptions, which is good for 3rd in the league. I mean, simple and sweet here with Adams. Chase the volume and the talent. Buy Adams. Right here now, moving on. Calvin Ridley at the 3rd most traded player. If you've been following this series, I have noted to sell Ridley multiple times, and I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but he offers little week-to-week consistency. You simply cannot rely on him to get you 10-plus points. 50% of his games have resulted in less, with 1 game being saved by a touchdown. He has finished as the wide receiver 1 only twice this season. He has yet to finish as a wide receiver 2, and he is averaging a finish of wide receiver 59 in those 6 other games. Sell if you can acquire a stable asset you are comfortable and confident plugging in every week, especially as we head towards the fantasy playoffs here. Moving on, Chris Olave, 4th most traded player. Now, despite any concerns on Olave's efforts in games, he still has at least 5 targets in every game. He is averaging 9.4 targets per game. He has a high of 15, a low of that 5. And he is one of 8 wide receivers that has 85 targets. Yet he's only the wide receiver 18 on the season. Potentially only having 2 touchdowns, it's going to bring that fantasy finish down. Now, looking a little bit more recently here, recency bias may have a little buy window here, as he is only averaging 50 yards per game over the last 3 weeks. It is a little frustrating what the Saints do with Olave, as they do not generate any plays with him. They kind of rely on him to be that down the field threat. He is 2nd in the league in total air yards, yet he's only 20th in total yards. Buy low on Olave here before the Saints potentially make any offense adjustments, or if just Olave starts getting hit deeper with the ball and getting those yards. Moving on here, 5th most traded player, Dak Prescott. Now, another quarterback here has entered the discussion. I think last week was the first time we had one in the top 12 most recently traded. Prescott, he has back-to-back 300-yard games and has 7 total touchdowns. He only had 6 total touchdowns in the first 6 games. This offense has been corrected, and he is averaging 28.8 points over those 2 games. Now, these points are worthwhile week to week if you can guarantee this will remain consistent to end the season. The Cowboys, they played the Rams and the Eagles. It's not like they were mopping up bottom-tier defenses. All right, maybe so with the Eagles, as their passing defense gives up the 4th most passing yards per game, but great run defense, though. Now, going back, looking at the quarterback, position in general, I find it hard not to trade away a quarterback, and then you get back a position you need to upgrade, and then just kind of plug and play in a quarterback. Now, if you want to keep Prescott, then do so. But if you can trade him away for that upgrade at another position and have a guy like Jordan Love to plug in, that may be worthwhile. Now, you probably are laughing at Love, but he is only averaging 0.5 less points per game, despite these last 2 boom weeks for Prescott. Moving on here, 6th most traded player, Joe Mixon. Bringing it back to that aforementioned healthy Bengal offense, Mixon, he's a beneficiary of that. He has averaged 18.9 points per game over these last 2 weeks, following that bye. While that first 6 games, he only averaged 11.5. I noted in last week's or the week before, the video to buy Mixon, as a healthy Bengal offense, it's going to open up the run game. Now, he has faced tough matchups the last 2 weeks in San Francisco and Buffalo. And now, he has benefited from having 8 receptions, PPR leagues, that's going to matter. But the main reasoning behind the run game opening up was the offense being able to push the ball down the field and get Mixon high volume touches. Mixon, he has a touchdown in the red zone back-to-back weeks. Buy Mixon if you can. Moving on here, we are looking at DK Metcalf. Now, Metcalf, he's just been underwhelming. He is averaging 12.2 points per game. Similar to Olave, Metcalf, he just has not found the end zone much. He only has 2 total touchdowns on the season. The price paid to draft him might be hurting that league mate who drafted him. So maybe you can throw an offer and buy Metcalf a little bit low. He is averaging only 12.2 points per game. But he is seeing over 10 points in 86% of games. So I am confident in Metcalf being a starter in my lineup. He is seeing that volume, and despite that lack of touchdowns, he is producing. He could be that wide receiver 3 or flex type player. However, if your league mate is expecting that premium price, I'm going to be out. The reality is the Seattle offense is doing well for Seattle, the NFL team. It's just not necessarily translating to fantasy success. So buy low on Metcalf as that low end, starter for your team. Here we are with the 8th most traded player recently, and that is Tony Pollard. So I guess similar to Metcalf, he has been underwhelming, especially as many people may have used a first-round pick on him. Pollard, he's only the RB18 so far through this season. There is that bye week in the rear view. Now, he could be viewed as a buy, but if the league mate is wanting that high investment return, I might be a little bit hesitant for trading for Pollard then. The volume is there. Pollard is averaging 19.4 opportunities per game, targets and carries. He just has not been efficient with those, touches that he has had. I would definitely buy low on Pollard as, we look at this offense, they're only 8 games under a whole new system. And, that does take time to get into a flow. When we look at Pollard last year in 2022, he was RB20 through week 9 last year, and he finished as the RB1. Similar logic is going to ring here, and we can hope Pollard's going to explode this second half of the season. Buy low. Now moving on, another running back here, Kareem Hunt. He just has been consistent since Cleveland came out their bye week. He has scored 5 touchdowns over the last 4 weeks and at least 1 in every game. Now, he is not necessarily seeing any receiving work. He does have 6 receptions so far this year. You are not really expecting much. You're relying a lot on Hunt scoring a touchdown for that fantasy scoring. He's only averaging 42.8 rushing yards per game since the bye week. I would sell Hunt if you can acquire a stable asset, one who is not necessarily relying on a touchdown, maybe Metcalf, to salvage their fantasy weeks. And kind of finishing here with the home stretch, the 10th most traded player, CJ Stroud. Another quarterback, and he is in this video back-to-back weeks. If you saw last week's video, you may have seen me note Stroud as a sell. Funny how that works. Dude goes out, drops 470 yards and 5 touchdowns. So I noted how Stroud has been playing extremely well as an individual player. And many people are touting him as a top quarterback in the NFL already. When we look at him for fantasy, he was just not producing in fantasy, as he averaged 16.6 points per game. That's within the likes of Baker Mayfield. So I guess Stroud must have watched the video last week, as he totaled 41.8 points in week 9. Similar to Prescott, if you can get that upgrade at another position and still have a solid plug-in quarterback, it may behoove your team to do just that. Moving on here, 11th most traded player, Darrell Henderson. Henderson, he's similar to Hunt, where he relies on the touchdowns to be fantasy relevant. There is a little added reception benefit with Henderson. He does have 6, through his first 3 games, albeit it's not much though, but the last 2 weeks he does have 3 and 2. This is tough to decide between a buy or a sell. Obviously anyone can be a buy or a sell. Every league has their own individual unique market. If you really need a running back, the price could be right for you. Moving on here to the 11th most traded player, Darrell Henderson. Now, Henderson, he is similar to Hunt, where he just relies on the touchdown to be fantasy relevant. There is a little added reception benefit here with Henderson. He does have 6 receptions through these first 3 games. It is not much, but at least these last 2 weeks, he does have 3 and 2. This is just tough to decide between a buy, or sell. Obviously anyone can be a buy or a sell. Every league, it has their own individual unique market. Like if you really, really need a running back, the price could be right for you. At least he is seeing the volume at 15.7 opportunities per game. But if you sign someone who really believes in Henderson, you may be able to capitalize on that too. So, depending on what it is, find the stable asset or keep him if you really need, that running back production. Moving on here to the 12th most traded player and the last one, Javonte Williams. So Denver, they're coming out of their bye week. And when we look at the previous 3 weeks, they have ramped up Williams' work. He has seen an increase in snaps. He went from 35% to 53% to 63% before they headed into that bye week. So subsequently, that workload, it's going to increase as well. 10, 19, and then 30 opportunities. Over the last 2 games, he has also knocked on 3 receptions each as well. His value is rising, and you need to pay up to get Williams on your team. It seems Denver, they are trusting him to be a focal part of the offense and carry the majority workload out of the backfield. Simple and sweet as well. Buy him to be an important piece for your playoff journey. Thank you for watching today's trade video. If you did enjoy the content, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more content.